Andrea, why did Claudia's brother-in-law bring a mirror to dinner?
Are we doing like a knock knock joke?
It's not a knock-knock joke. It's just why did he bring
To
uh,
get to the other side.
so he could finally reflect on his behavior?
I think mine was better.
Probably. Okay. Well, this is Eric,
This is Andrea.
and this is Hallmark Mysteries and
And
more.
more.
This podcast was created by fans for fans and is not affiliated with or sponsored by Hallmark or the Hallmark channel.
Now we've scared Dara away.
No, I was thinking, speaking of reflection, maybe this is his elegy. He needed an elegy.
It was a brother-in-law joke,
Circling back.
which is very important to
Oh.
this whole movie. But thank you, Dara, from Dear Hallmark, for coming back. And you and I have talked about this for ages. And I said, when we
Yes.
talk Gourmet Detective, you have to be on here because you're one of the few, I shouldn't say one of the few, there's one of many, but you are one of the more vocal for your love of Gourmet Detective. So we could not do an episode and not have you included.
I'm grateful to the Academy of Hallmark Mysteries and more. Thank you so much for having me for this episode specifically. Y'all are sunshine and rainbows, and I love it.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I am a sunshine and rainbow. I keep telling Andrea that all the time.
I'm never giving you a compliment again.
I know. I was like, no, it goes right to his head.
Oh,
Well,
boy.
Eric, do we have news we want to chat about first before we dive into it?
Well, my first news is we are talking about. I'll deal with my news in a second on that. The other part, the big news, which I think you want to talk about, is Lisa Hamilton Daly exiting Hallmark. I don't think any of us saw that coming. From my understanding, she was like on vacation in Costa Rica or something like that. Came back to the office and is like, "Hey, come on into can you come to the big guy's office for a second here?" And I don't
And you
know.
chatted with her as well.
So I sent her a little note because we talked to her on the podcast back, when Hallmark Mysteries launched and stuff.
That was a
So
good episode.
I sent her a little note saying, "Hey, would love to, have you on, not to do any dirt, kind of, no Dylan, type, pull the curtain back, but just, sort of talk about, hey, your experience at Hallmark, all the great things you accomplished, what you're most proud of, this, that, and the other." And she's like, "Can't, the lawyers are there, can't do any publicity or any interviews or anything like that. So sorry." It would have been good to hear. Like I said, I don't think she really would have shared too much about what's going on, but still, I don't know. Before we go into like breaking it down, Dar, what was your feeling for what she brought to the network?
Mm. Honestly, I did not like the direction the network was going, personally. I saw that she did make some strides in terms of the types of stories that were being told in the movies that we received, but there was something that just wasn't clicking for me, and I felt like we were having more misses than wins overall, and it was getting a bit exhausting for me, to be completely honest. So,
When you say that, you're talking mostly 24, or are you going back further in time?
I'm talking 2021 to
Okay.
2024. I felt like that 4-year period, I felt like there were more misses than wins. However, I felt like when there were wins, they hit like, and I would say that wholeheartedly. Like when the movies were good, they were good. I mean, round and round can just shut down the whole conversation in and of itself. That Just One Kiss. I mean, those movies were phenomenal. But I think I just felt like I felt like the brand of Hallmark lost its charm. And I think it lost the reason why I started watching Hallmark movies in the first place. And so I began to get exhausted a lot watching the movies because I didn't know what I was gonna get. And I felt like it was a lot of emotions mixed up in it for me. And so that that's kind of my thoughts on that in terms of the overall,
How about you,
like,
Andrea?
yeah. Mhm.
I agree with Dara. I've been watching for many years, and I would probably say that same. I don't remember which year. It might have been 20. It was either 21 or 22. But I really liked one of those seasons. I'd have to go back to my blog to look, but I really, as a whole, that was probably one of the best overall crops of Christmas movies. But throughout the year, I feel like we've had, especially the last couple of years, a lot of misses, like not as many good off of the Christmas season movies. Mysteries obviously have been kind of depleted the last few years. And I don't know, again, if that was her doing or if she had any say. I've heard that she actually really pushed the mysteries, but we just didn't have as many, and I don't think we had as consistent as we were getting when they first started. And so then it's really hard to build up those franchises of we talked about Eric, but I think for me that's kind of where her legacy lies, I guess. Like I'm not in love with anything that she's done. The Way Home I think was the one of the ones that she brought over, which I enjoy. The Way Home, I think that's wonderful. But overall, I would probably agree with Dara. Like I also, when I fell in love with them, like I do like the predictable and like here we go. I like the occasional, out of the box ones. Like Round and Round wasn't my favorite as much as you guys enjoyed. I have usually the traditional My Scottish Christmas, those that everyone
I
else
know.
loves.
See what I have to deal with, Dar?
Oh my God.
Love so
Round and
much.
Round, which may have knocked um, whatever it
It's a good
made Summer
one.
Villa out as my favorite all-time Hallmark movie, and I have to listen to
My Scottish Christmas
Scottish
was
Christmas.
classic Hallmark Christmas movie now.
I'm literally clutching the collar of my shirt, clutching my pearls, my proverbial pearls. This is wild, but I respect your opinion. Yep.
Oh. I hate my best friend wouldn't even watch it. I was like, oh, it's so good. And she's like, it's a royal Hallmark movie. I'm like, but it's not really super
It is.
royal. It's not that bad. So she watched Biltmore instead. I
But
said that's probably a better choice.
I think I'm kind of a
You
little
don't
bit.
agree.
Well,
I am.
I
I
sort
don't
of
think you
I do.
agree.
Here's what I think, and I kind of where you're going, Dara, is I think the ceiling went way higher, but I don't think the floor
Mhm.
rose either because I'll say if we look at 24 as a whole, I would be really hard pressed to say there were 10 great movies. I'm including let's take away Hallmark Plus, and I'll take out mysteries because I thought mysteries had a pretty solid year. But if you just look at like the Hallmark, the rom-com world,
Not good.
it was I don't know. I could probably get to 10, but I would
And
not be
that's it.
like great ones. Whereas let's go Christmas last year. I mean, Round and Round, Catch Me If You Claus.
My Scottish
Um,
Christmas.
Even Notting Hill. I mean, like that.
what this? What's? Why am I going brain dead on Hunters? Not the Santa connection. The whatever.
Catch Me If You Claus.
No, the one with
I know,
Hunter.
but that one was a good one too. That was
Right.
last
That's I
year.
said.
That was
Catch Me If you Claus.
2023.
Oh, Santa Summit.
Santa Summit. Yes. Um, just great movies. So, what do you think about where we're going to go with this? Because
So,
what's his name? Darren Abbott.
Darren
I don't
Abbott.
think he's any relation to Bill Abbott, the former head of
I don't
Hallmark.
believe so
All
either.
right. So where do you think we're gonna be going with that?
So at first I was kind of like, because he's the chief brand officer of cards, and I'm thinking retail and television are two completely different mediums. So what is it going to look like for him to now be over programming when he was in prior just over brand when it comes to a retail product. And granted, to some extent, I could see how you can phrase it that television could be a product because the end consumer would be viewers, but it's still, I think, a completely different medium. Like it's just a completely different ball field. However, when I let it stew some more, the only kind of benefit or advantage I could see with him being over programming, we would still have an SVP of programming. So there's still someone there that could be boots on the ground actually developing. And maybe he's just over it to make sure there is still some Hallmark charm and that there are some maybe like major Hallmark messages that are still being communicated. But I watched, and I don't know if I sent this to you guys or not, but I watched a YouTube clip of a CNBC interview that he did in December talking about the cruise and the Christmas experience and how he's wanting to turn Hallmark into a lifestyle brand, which I feel like it has the potential to be, but I'm just curious how he's going to do that through television and through media. So I am curious to see. We probably won't see any effects of what he's going to be doing till like later in the year or next year, depending on what Lisa's already developed, had in development and things like that. But at this point now, I'm just very curious. Like I don't even know what to expect. But so that was kind of my thought process about that.
I think some of those things, like it, to me, it explains the Curious Cater, which was supposed to be, from my understanding, filming around now, all of a sudden
Pushback.
pushed way back till next summer. So maybe some of those things, but they need programming, right? So like you said, things are going to be happening.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're going to do those experiences, so if people are going to pay $1,000 to $3,000 for them, you have to have new movies with these actors. Otherwise, who's going to pay that money to go see them when they're no longer in new movies? At some point, those stars, just like if you look at athletes, like Kevin Garnett was my favorite athlete. Now that he's retired, like, would I pay as much now to go get a picture with him as I would have when I was a teenager? No. And that's just kind of that relevance. Like, he's just not as relevant as he was back in the day. And that's kind of the same with the movies. If you don't have these new movies, those stars start to, feel more farther away and you're not as interested in them as much. So I am very curious to see what they do there. And I'm also very concerned with mysteries as a whole, and what they're going to do, since, we've heard Lisa was a big fan of them and pushed them. And now, is someone going to come over and take them in, especially with ratings? Are they going to stop that channel altogether and just put them on Hallmark Plus? What are they going to do with Hallmark Plus? Do they have a strategy? So I am more concerned overall for Hallmark as a whole, viewing wise, and we'll probably have more acquired movies because it's cheaper, if they don't have a plan in place, which, some of these filmed, like Benjamin Ayers was saying, like, I think that movie that aired, The Santa Claus, like, was filming in October and stuff was already playing. And so they filmed some of these so late, like, that if they don't have a plan, like, they're going to be acquiring more. And I personally am not watching any of January's new movies just because I don't think I'm going to like any of them. And I'm like, I'm not going to waste my time with stuff I don't like anymore. And so I'm getting more choosy as a viewer, and other people will too. And then you're going to lose an audience. So that's my concern. Mine is much more darker, per usual for me. Take it down. Not as optimistic as Eric, but
Well,
more realistic of, like, what is happening. I'm concerned.
here's the thing: is he's a brand guy, right? And that's kind of what, when I'm not podcasting and watching Hallmark movies, kind of my job. And to your point, Dara, it's a whole different gig, right? It's not about development, it's not about storytelling, and if he's overseeing it, I don't know. I'm thinking it's more like holiday touchdowns than round and
Ooh.
rounds, right?
Ooh.
Because I think he's going to be focusing on events, cruises, partnerships. That's what brand guys do, right? So that's my fear. And to your point too, Andrea, is if you then say, okay, we're going to do these because, yeah, you make a ton of money on this cruise or this Christmas experience. But if you're not feeding the well to keep all of us Hallmark junkies watching and staying, wanting to travel to Kansas City in the middle of Christmas or winter, whatever, to go hang out with them because we've just seen them in average movie after average movie after average
Oof.
movie, it's not going to sustain.
Mhm.
And so that's my thing of having someone who's in charge of programming who's just not, it's not their thing. Like you said, Dara, it's two very different beasts. Now, I think to your point, maybe he's a hands off, like, hey, I'm going to just stay here and make sure what you're doing aligns with some other things and so we can maximize it. Great. But you touched on this too, Andrea. What do you guys think? Well, first of all, I will say I think Hallmark Plus has had some fantastic programming. But what do you think about the actual rollout and the way Hallmark Plus has gone?
The rollout was a disaster, to put it lightly. Like, I think they backloaded like they front loaded the year with putting movies from 2023 from Hallmark Movies and Mysteries onto channel and treating it like they were new premieres. And then in the summer, we get this whole, oh, Hallmark Plus. And then they just drop all these movies, which happen to be better than what's being played on the network. And I'm like, so what is the channel? Chopped liver? Like, you're putting so much beautiful, great original content on Hallmark Plus, and I feel like you're giving the actual linear channel scraps. And then, I just watched The Groomsmen because they rolled that out concurrently with Countdown to Christmas, which I think was the poorest decision in Hallmark history, in my opinion. This is
Yeah,
my opinion. This is not the opinion of Hallmark Mystery Support. So
my opinion too.
Mine too.
I and even just like they premiered the Jane mystery in just last week, just this past Saturday, when they dropped that. So I'm and Andrew, that's where I'm concerned too, that now they're putting all the mysteries on Plus and then just going to air them on the network. So then who's actually going to be watching the mystery channel? And now they're doing that both on mystery and on channel, and that they're streaming the Saturday premieres next day. Who's gonna who's gonna actually care about watching the movie live anymore? And then on top of that, I saw that they're doing, like, you can get points for streaming When Calls the Heart and The Way Home. So it's like, why do I even need to watch the network anymore? Like, I am just so confused about like what they want to do. Like, are they trying to alienate their whole fan base and push them to Plus? Because this makes no sense to me. Now, mind you, I am grateful for Mistletoe Murders. I am grateful for Holidays and Aurora Tea Garden. But I think, again, the execution to me has been less than satisfactory. And that's why I'm just like, at this point, I don't even know what else they could do, because they've done the diabolical all around just with everything.
Yeah, I mean, you're voicing, I completely agree. And, we've had those discussions the same. Like, you kind of, for me, I think they should have rolled it out in January, then drop the groomsmen, give us some incentive to like, and then Aurora, like this all could have been rolled out in a much easier to digest way. Plus, people don't have time to watch all of these movies when you shove all of the Christmas stuff and then throw in all these bonus stuff. It's just so much. Plus the good content with the Mistletoe Murders and Holidays. And then we're supposed to keep up with our regular programming. And again, I think the confusing when you said the points, I also am like, okay, so I want to get points, I guess. I don't know what these points are for, but then it's almost like gaming. And if I'm like, I don't understand why the points are, and then I'm like, if my mom had Hallmark Plus, she would have no idea what these points are.
They're
Or,
for the Hallmark
like,
store. So they're for you to redeem in the Hallmark
how
store.
do I even do that? Do I do
That
it like that's like
so I think
I
it's
was
linked to
wondering,
your
how do I have to get an app? Like, this is where like some of these basics that they really need to teach
yeah.
us. Cause I'm like, I'm sure I have some points sitting somewhere, but I don't know how to redeem them. I don't know where they are. And I'm sure like my mom, who does like to go to the Hallmark store, she would have been like, yeah, sure, but she would have no idea how to do any of this either. And so I think you're losing, that link. And then you're also gamifying it, which uh it's not as fun as it maybe used to be,
Hey, when you got a brand guy leading things, that's what you do. But
gamify.
yeah, I agree with you everything. And just like you said, Andrew, I think Groomsmen should have come out in January. Like, I mean, when the Wedding Veils was January, right? I think wasn't like
Yeah.
Yeah.
February, January into Feb. I think it should have met with that timing. It was really weird timing. The Muse guys, we knew that Aurora was coming. They didn't really announce it. They announced it like 72 hours before, like, hey, it's going to be airing. Like, they didn't even know a week before that it was dropping. So it, I don't know. And then while it has not really affected my personal listening to it, but the Hallmark Cafe folks, with the big thing about it not being in stereo, like, it's 2024/2025. You want to compete with the big boys, you better have your technology figured out, because when it first rolled out, I remember Andrew and I, when we talked about it, we're like, it kind of just seems like Hallmark now. Like I don't like granted, as you said, the programming, holidays, mistletoe murders, Aurora Tea Gardens, those are some of the best things I've ever seen on Hallmark. Totally good. But it's not an easy thing to get to.
Well, do you have anything else for us, Eric, or should we dive into gourmet?
Before we dive into gourmet, I just want to say I am going to be after this making some homemade pasta. So I am chanting a little inner Henry going on. So I think I am ready to talk Gourmet Detective.
You know, one of my goals is to make pasta from
It
scratch.
is literally the easiest thing on the planet. My son and
This
I,
makes me excited.
for his, which it shocked me, for his 24th birthday last November, he's like, hey, let's do a cooking class. I'm like, heck yeah. And it was not quite like Maggie's cooking class. We didn't have the chef go around and insult everybody, but it was how to make whatever pasta. And I thought it was super hard. No, you just need the pasta machine. It's flour and egg, mix it together. Then you just flatten it out and slide it through that bad boy. Easy as can be.
That makes me excited. That makes me really excited.
And then, so for Hanukkah, my wife, she got me a new KitchenAid mixer because I needed the color. I had mine for like 10 years and it was just like boring black. Like they used to come in like silver, black. I don't even know if they came in white. And now they come in like all the colors. So now I
Oh,
have mint
Eric.
julep and it's beautiful. My black one's sitting in the garage. I have to figure out what to do with it. But I also got the pasta attachment, so I'll be testing that out.
You're
So
cool.
You
I like
would
I
be the
like
one to ask for that. That's amazing.
it is awesome.
Mine is hot pink. I have one, but it's hot pink. So, oh, Dara, do you have one?
Oh no,
No, I
trust
Oh,
me,
don't.
this whole color I spent with my daughter going through everyone,
hours. I can,
analyzing.
yeah,
Oh yeah,
that
it was
strikes me
not
as
an
you.
easy decision to narrow it down to one. And the best is I finally picked out my color. And of course, because of me being me, like 3 days later, I changed my mind and I decided I wanted the other one. And so when I opened up my present and I saw it was my original one, I was like, okay, okay. But then it looks so good. It is beautiful, beautiful.
Oh my gosh. Okay, on that note, let's get into Gourmet Detective, Death al Dente. When Henry Ross is hired to find the best Italian chef for a new high-end eatery, murder was not on the menu. As the body count climbs, Henry and Maggie find themselves at the heart of another mystery with deadly consequences. Woo! All right, Dara, since you're our guest, would you like to go first and tell us overall enjoyment and what number did you give this one?
200. It's amazing. Like and everything about Gourmet Detective, Dylan Neal, Brooke Burns, San Francisco, cooking, Frasier vibes, mystery. I feel like you cannot go wrong. This was just great. Then we got some love triangulation. And so that like I just oh gosh, I just enjoyed it. And I haven't watched Gourmet Detective in a while. So I was excited to get back into it by watching this. I was like, yeah, yeah, they don't make them like this anymore, man. They don't make them like this anymore. So I really, really loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved
Oh. Well, Eric, what about you?
Well, let's see, a 200, so I'd have to go a 201. This
it.
is
Okay, Price is Right.
this is my favorite episode of all five. I'll get into that reason a little later. But yeah, it's so good. Like I say, that love triangle, seeing Henry jealous, pulling up Facebook and oh look at this, he's got a surfer dude picture going on his face. Like it's so funny. So it's really interesting though, because like Dara, how you said you hadn't watched it in a while. I probably haven't seen it in I don't know 6, 7 months. Right? I usually watch it maybe once, twice a year, the episodes. But after talking to Dylan and finding out, like I said, that Frasier vibe, the monk thing, the quirkiness, I really never tuned in on that, but now that I'm aware, I see all those little moments and they just pop out to me because he comes in like awkward and then he quickly tries to be Mr. Cool, right? And I usually caught the Mr. Cool and I wasn't catching that little tiny intro to that, which I catch them all now. So I love it. And then the banter between the two of them. I mean, like Brooke going, or Maggie, I guess, boundaries, to which Henry's response is, I've got none.
I
Right?
wrote that line down too.
Right? I mean, it is such a perfect line. And then, yes, I know I'm partial to Brooke, but damn, that woman gives some smoldering, hot looks. She knows. Yeah, she knows. And then last, I'll say, Matt Hamilton. Gotta love it. Getting a little Matt Hamilton.
Didn't even know that was him. So again, like that's how long I rewatched it. That's how long it was since I've watched it that I rewatched it. And I was like, oh, now I know his name. So that's another cool thing too. So, mhm.
Andrea, you had a 203, putting us to shame.
Yes, I'm gonna take us down. This is my least favorite one. I gave it a 3 out of 5.
I
I
know
actually
what.
find
Because
this
you
one
hate me.
I know when you said it was your favorite, I was like, well, it's my least favorite.
I'm clutching my pearls again. I'm clutching my pearls.
Like I haven't watched this one in particular. I'm like, oh, there's a reason I always skip this one. I just find it a little slow. This one is a slower moving one for me. And so I enjoyed like, the ex coming in, and I think that Maggie has great chemistry with him, and I like that Bailey and Monroe have more to do in this episode or this movie, but overall, like I do find this one a little slower. I was not paying attention halfway through. Like this one was a struggle. Like honestly, this one was a tough one
That's,
for me. I know. I'm sorry.
I see what you have to deal with now, Eric,
I
and I'm
know.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
It is tough.
Sorry.
It is tough being
So
me.
yeah, this one was not my fave. I do know the next two I enjoy, but this one not one I rewatch, and I now remember why I don't rewatch this one. Sorry. What about that mystery minute though, Dara? What do you think of the mystery?
Well, as I gather my heart from the floor, the mystery, I love the mystery. I love that it involved like a family heirloom. I love me a little family heirloom mystery. I love that it involved a painting. Um, and also I love that there was a clue in a poem. Was it an elegy? I don't know. What, because she was Aunt Vera reflecting, because they said she was, the mall was open, but nobody was shopping. So I'm wondering, was she somehow reflecting before she left us? But I enjoyed how the mystery was packaged, and that even Detective Stephen coming in to help, even though he was coming in from the breaking and entering side, but how he was still able to assist. I enjoyed it. And anything that has a clue in something, like in terms of like that has to do with words, again, because of the poem, and that was like a treasure map and all that. Like I think that was my favorite element of it, was the elegy. I'm just gonna call it an elegy. I'm gonna use that word to the ground now.
Since
So
we didn't get to
yeah.
use it last episode.
I feel like it's more fitting here. I feel like it's more fitting here. But
Oh.
yeah, I definitely enjoyed this one for sure.
Eric, what do you think of the mystery?
I thought it was good. Some good puns, twists and turns, like Dara said. Seeing the clue that was right there. And, when I rewatched it, obviously I looked at the painting and I knew where we are going and all that. But to the point, like, oh, it's right in the elegy, to which Henry calls out, and then he gets to later on take credit for it. See, I was right there. But I will say, the second you see Aaron Douglas on the screen, you're like, guilty. That dude did it. Like, there's some people who you just know kill people, right? And he is one. He's, I think, been in, if not every, basically old mystery.
Oh.
Like he's Mystery
He's in quite a
101,
few. Yeah.
Garage Sale, Murder She Baked. Uh, so yeah, he's whatever. You just know he's guilty. There's certain people there. I will say though, there was one thing that after seeing it again and seeing it like right, after seeing the other one, it kind of did annoy me a little bit that kind of that little twist at the end where the woman sort of was the accidental, like I did it, but I didn't mean to do it. And then the guy comes in and he turns out the guy's really the bad one. Sort of, they did it 2 episodes in a row. And
Oh.
I'm wondering if maybe that's a little, as Dylan said, Bill Abbott came in and had his opinions. And I don't know, I guess since we talk to him all the time, I could ask. But I'm wondering if that was like one of the things that Bill's like, no, we can't have women be these bad people because women should be up in their pedestal, some Bill Abbott type, I don't know, thought process on something like that. So it did seem like kind of a weird thing that you did it 2 in a row. But I'm not going to ask Dylan because I don't want to insult him in case it wasn't a Bill Abbott thing. And he's like, wait a minute.
Well, I'm on the same page with you there, Eric, because that was my notes as well, is I didn't really like that. That was the accidental killer again. And then like the mystery of the guy coming in and doing it. I just didn't care. I just really didn't like this one, is what it's coming down to. This was just not my favorite. And I
It's the
tried
brother
watching it.
thing,
I know it
being the
just
brother,
didn't.
helping the
I
sister.
didn't even watch this one twice. Like usually I watch them twice, and after the first one, I was like, oh, even before we got on today, I was like, I have an hour. I should really turn it on and watch it again. I was like, I really just don't want to. This is not my fave, and I will skip it. Like the other four, yes, I watch, but this one, not good. So no death alla dente for me. But what about the romance, Dara?
Yes, we had geometry and chemistry because of our love triangle brought to us by Detective Stephen. But I love that he kind of pushed Detective Maggie and Henry to know that they actually have feelings for each other. And I appreciate it. And I love, Eric, you mentioned this. I love seeing Henry jealous. Like as soon as Stephen walked in, he's just like, what's this stuff? Like his
My
eyes, like the
case.
way he cut his eyes. Yes. Yes, I loved it. And we got the kiss. Not one but two, not two but three. And it was great. It was great. I love them together. They're my favorite mystery couple. Is that a hot take? I know we got a lot of Mystery 101 fans, but they're my favorite mystery couple.
We
You
said the
said
same
it.
thing. Yeah.
Okay.
We agree with you. We agree with you. That and then Mistletoe Murders is our
Oh
next.
gosh. Yes.
Oh, what about you, Eric? Romance?
You can guess.
That's
It's hot. It's spicy. Caliente. Boom.
Spanish.
All
Oh.
those things. The first kiss, it was good. The like little head together and then kiss. But then Brooke comes back. Talked about her smoldering look, the look she gave him right before she came back and kissed him again. Uh, everything. But then it, I was going to say it was my favorite kiss of all time when they're walking down the street and Henry's talking and she just stops and just plants it on him and then walks on. But, and we mentioned it before, the kiss, the straddling kiss and Catch Me If You Clause,
Oh
I think is
God.
the best kiss of Hallmark history. This, the second best kiss. That is the second best kiss, just because Henry is just doing his thing. Kiss, walks on, way to go. Maggie drops the mic, and so good, so good.
Yeah, I don't really have much to add because I think you two covered that because I
Then you
totally
hated
agree.
it.
No, I didn't hate it. Well, I mean, I didn't like it, but I did like the romance vibes, and I liked that Steve came in. Again, like the chemistry, like Maggie has chemistry with both of them so well that I think that added an element that, that was probably my highlight of just seeing that is just her interact with both of them because I'm like, wow, she is just does she have chemistry with
Smoldering.
everyone? I'm like, every single, but she does like her,
She had chemistry with me.
Monroe and Bailey though, like it's different chemistry. Like it's not that like smoking like, oh yes, I used to date you chemistry. Like okay, so she can turn it on. So for me, that's what I noticed in this one. But character corner, did you have a standout character, Dara?
Detective Steven, but of course, like he's
Mine
my
too.
standout. I wish we got to see him more. Like I wish he popped in more. And this made me think though, with LHD out, because I remember Dylan mentioned in your interview, which by the way, can we just say fantastic? Like you guys really did a fantastic job in terms of the questions that you asked and getting him to open up. Like kudos to you guys for that. I'm wondering now what that will look like for him, like if he'll be able to move forward with some of the projects he was talking about, and what that looks like for him. But Detective Steven is the best triangulation in a mystery for me. Maybe this is making me want to go back and watch the other mysteries to see if there was some other type of triangulation that happened. But dang, I mean, Detective Steven, he's slick, he's suave, he got a little bit of salt and the pepper, so it's like, oh, I loved it, love him and it. So,
I'm gonna piggyback there because that's also my character.
yeah,
And yeah, the same. I mean, the smoldering looks a great vibe. And again, I think that like just the introduction, it just seemed believable right away. As soon as you're on screen, you're just like, oh yeah, I buy this and I buy them together. And I think that really added to Maggie and Henry ending up together with the kiss at the end. Like I just pushed them together as, one of you had said, and that's what you need so they don't drag out like they do in some of the other mysteries that take forever to get them to this point where you're like, okay, great, they're together, love it, because then we get to move on to movie 4 and they get to they're that together couple. What about you, Eric? Then did you have Steve as well?
Well, no, because
Oh,
as literally everybody in the Hallmark universe knows, Brooke is my top of the
so you're
top
picking her
Hallmark
again.
crush. So I was like Henry, totally jealous of him and wanted him off. I wanted him arrested for corruption, embarrassed, thrown in jail. So I hate Steve. I'm right there with Henry. Mine was the scene and the guy, the forger
yeah,
who's making the passports when Maggie comes in. That whole scene, that guy, I mean, it was just a little throwaway scene, kind of, but Maggie's interaction with him, his interaction there, he looked exactly the right part for it. And I
Yeah.
loved how Maggie's like, okay, well, I catch you again. This is your one-time pass, walks out, and he just puts his glasses on and goes back to forging. Loved that scene. Like I say, did it matter much in most of everything? Not really. I guess it did sort of lead to where the guilty party was, but what great casting, right? The guy just looks like a forger. I think that's what they did. They put a little thing in Variety, needed forger, you know,
Oh.
criminal record plus.
Well, moving on to our Hallmark trivia. Dara, do you have any trivia for us?
I wasn't able to find
Okay, that's okay. I
anything.
didn't bring any last week, so it's okay. I did find something this week, though.
I have stuff.
I know yours are always really, I'll do mine because yours is going to be
I'm,
better.
well, I
Um,
get mine right from the source,
I
so it's
know,
not fair.
I know. Well, mine is about the guy, the actor who played Steve. So his name is
Jerk.
Chris William Martin. He was also in the Chronicles Mysteries, Recovered, that movie. He was in a garage sale mystery, Murder in D Minor in the garage sale one, and Cedar Cove, as well as a few episodes of When Calls the Heart. So I am like, wow, I feel like I don't recall him in any of these movies or series. So I kind of want to keep my eye out for him next time we go into some of these other mysteries, but we'll have to see. So he's in Recovered, which is the Chronicles, which I haven't seen
I think that's
Chronicles
the
enough.
first one, right?
I
Again, you're
think
asking the wrong
so.
You
person
like
with the
you like Dara, you
Chronicles.
like Chronicle, right?
It's okay.
Oh,
It
that's
doesn't,
right.
Thanks,
yeah, it
thanks.
No, I
doesn't
think it's
stand out
okay.
as my favorite,
Never mind.
but
Same.
yeah,
Eric loves it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's right. I thought you liked it, but I forgot you told me you didn't like it. Never mind.
Shoot, shoot, Eric.
All
Well, what
right.
do you have then for trivia? Because I'm sure yours is pretty good.
All right. So one of the things, a little behind the scenes, is I think Bill Abbott, I don't know if he just hated Dylan Neal or what, but they seemed like they did not have the best relationship, right? And he wanted to do everything he could to kill this series, but he slashed their budget and made them produce it, saying basically, okay, even though they committed to three and they sold the rights to the third one, he's like, the only way you can do it is by cutting the budget. And so they ended up having to, the only way they could do it was film over 13 days instead of the normal 15 days that it normally takes. But Hallmark requires it to be 15 days. So they had to make a fake schedule for Hallmark saying it took 15
Oh
days,
my
but it really
gosh.
took 13 days. And they were
Wow.
doing major cost cutting throughout the entire
Hmm.
filming of the series,
Of the series or this
of
movie in
this episode.
particular? That's interesting because maybe that's why. Because again, I'm the settings person, and I feel like there wasn't a lot of settings. There wasn't a lot
Locations are
happening.
expensive.
And I bet that's probably makes sense then why maybe this one didn't land for me as much because it felt very, shoestring budget. So that would make
Actually,
sense.
locations are expensive and time consuming.
Yeah,
So that could very well be.
that makes sense. All right, what
And
injury did he have?
Dylan has his mishap, and in this one, it's a little bit gross.
Uh-oh.
He got the total flu and was sick as could be during all of it. So him and Brooke were getting vitamin B shots in their butts the whole time to make it through. And in the kissing scene, the little headbutt one, his nose was incessantly running, and you
Oh,
can only imagine the war
gross.
wounds that Brooke had to
Oh,
take with
gross.
the kissing scene.
Oh, that's so gross.
To which I was saying it
Professionals.
is so hot. Like, no, granted, the one in the street's hotter, but still, that one, Brooke coming in for that second one, still smoldery,
Snotty.
even with a little boogie on the face.
Oh, gross.
Wow. My
Oh,
mind's blown. My mind is blown.
I
Oh.
don't like to give my husband kisses when he's got like a cold.
Oh, my wife was
Gross.
avoiding me like she was staying 3 rooms away, and I'm not going anywhere near you.
Hallmark and chill time. So, did this movie remind you of anything, Dara? Any recommendations?
I actually have one for this, and it's a Frasier episode. So
Oh,
I literally watched this today. And so it's season 4, episode 18. It's called Ham Radio. And
Oh
it's
yeah.
when Frasier is trying to put on this live, like recreate the radio station's first live murder mystery drama for radio. And so he's to celebrate their anniversary, he has a 30-minute live spot. And he's gathering all his peeps together to try to put on this live murder mystery like radio drama. And it just goes to crap and it is hilarious. And so I thought the murder mystery element of that episode and it being Frasier could tie into the Gourmet Detective as our Henry Ross has a little bit of Frasier in him. So that is my Space Jam reach, my Inspector Gadget reach for this Hallmark and Chill.
I have to ask you, my wife's a huge Frasier fan, and it just last night started up season one, episode one. They air it, at whatever in the middle of the night. And she said, for her, she says season one is the best season.
I mean season 2 and 3 are
The
really, really good. Like
season one is the bag, right? The baby bag, or is that season two? 'Cause now I'm thinking maybe it's season two.
you're talking about with Niles when
Yeah, yeah. Sugar.
he has the flour or sugar.
Or,
I think
or
that's season 2.
Okay, so
Yeah,
maybe season two is her favorite then.
yeah,
I
but
have never seen
Frasier.
an episode. I don't know
Oh,
anything about
you
Frasier.
must. If you love like Frasier, he is incredibly like persnickety, pretentious, witty. His relationship with his brother, but then his father is kind of like this all-American retired cop, like kind of blue collar, kind of normal. And so that dynamic, it's gold. It's gold. It's 11 seasons, and you can just like but it's quick. Like again, it's on. I watch it through Hulu. So I remember I discovered the show in my mid-20s when I was in graduate school because I needed something to pass the time while I was working. And then I couldn't watch it in work because I would just be watching the show. So firmly encourage you to watch. Mhm.
Okay, okay, I can add it to my list. Well, my Murder She Wrote episode today is season 1, episode 7. We're off to kill the wizard. Jessica gets mixed up with a nasty scheme involving a theme park creator while visiting relatives. Now, this episode is not my favorite, just like this movie.
Oh, is
And
that right?
I mean, it wasn't necessarily why, but the man who was killed, he wasn't a great guy, but it was another, like an accidental killing was kind of the premise behind it as well. So I thought it paired well with what I thought of this movie and the accidental killing part. So enjoy. Eric, what do you got?
I'm bringing us right back into the Hallmark universe. And I'm going to go to probably Andrea's second favorite mystery series, Picture Perfect.
Oh,
And go with Picture Perfect, Dead Over Diamonds,
oh,
where there's a big jewelry heist there that they have to go ahead and solve. And the main reason why is just a jewelry themed mystery. No, it's a jewelry heist versus the other one, which I guess it's a jewelry heist at the end of the day. But so yeah, so there we go.
Picture
You like
Perfect
it?
for anyone listening. That is not. That is one of my least favorites. So
Tomato,
Now
tomato.
that's one of my favorites.
I
really?
know.
Oh,
That was our conversation that we both like Picture
no.
Perfect. Now I don't put it in my top five, but I definitely appreciate it, and I knew that
Bottom
you
two.
actually really liked it too.
It's my gateway, so that's why it has a special
Okay.
place in my heart.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wasn't my favorite. Ooh. That's all right though. Well, fan corner, I have nothing. Do you have anything this week, Eric?
No, no poll. Jeez,
No, I haven't
I
been
kind
taking a
of.
poll on these because, I mean, again, some people haven't seen them. Maybe I should take a poll and see if anyone's newly has watched them. Because each episode, if you haven't watched these in a while, they all kind of meld together, and you got to remember which, oh yeah, that movie is the one I didn't like. That one is the one with the gunfight and the costume play. Like that's the one that's coming up next. So next week we're gonna review Eat, Drink, and Be Buried. So that one I know that I really enjoy. Like that could be fighting my top spot with the wellness one. So that one I will be back in that 5 out of 5 range. So I just gave away all of it. So you don't even need to tune in next week. Look at there, just shared mine.
Well, maybe I will give it a bad review.
That would be shocking. So maybe you stay tuned in to see if Eric gives it a bad review.
All right,
That is my
I'm
least
already
favorite one.
laughing at the
Really, that's
beginning
your
of.
least favorite?
I remember because when we were talking about this, and I was like, "Oh, is that the one with the costumes?" Because that one was a little bit boring to me. Because I like the whole reenactment thing just
Oh, I
doesn't.
love that.
Oh,
But don't
okay.
worry, someone messaged me and they said that was next week's was also their least favorite of the series
Uh,
too. So you're not alone. I enjoyed that one.
I still enjoy it, but in terms like if I had to rank the
Yeah,
episodes, that would
yeah,
probably be towards the
bottom.
bottom.
I
Yeah.
think this is a good time to say goodbye, Dara.
Oh, you're just trying to kick me out?
After you go ahead and just take all this positive energy,
Okay.
the beginning of that when they show up, hilarious. But that's for another time. Thank you very
Oh,
much for joining us.
yes, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. You guys are cool. I appreciate you guys. Love what you're doing here too.
Tell
What
everyone
you're
where they can
doing.
find you.
Yeah, everywhere your ear takes in podcasts, Dear Hallmark, the podcast. And I'm also on YouTube at Dear Hallmark and Instagram at the same name, Dear Hallmark.
And unlike us, your YouTube and your podcast you don't just simulcast like we do. You do like totally different content on the
Correct.
two.
Yeah, I
How
treat them
uh,
differently.
you have no life because
Ah!
that's all you could do doing the two separate things. There's so much just to do one, and you do two.
Well,
So
I treat the YouTube as like a quick, like 10-minute, like I don't edit the YouTube videos. I literally just I do one take and throw it up there, and it is what it is. So, whereas the podcast, I'm a little bit more methodical with that. And so I plan it out. I have like things I want to talk about. So, yeah.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.